Get into it. Well, Fergus Johnston, the first guest on the new podcast. Don't even have a title for this podcast, but
Straight in.
we're just getting straight into it. We had a few technical difficulties, maybe, but
Maybe a couple. Yeah.
we
I
have
think
made it.
as any first recording probably should have.
Yeah. So, firstly, I was kind of thinking about it, like the first thing I'd ask you,
Mm.
but this is more of a question to you. Is like, when was the first time we met? Because I was trying to think back to it. I was
That's a really
thinking
good question.
it had to be down in Adelaide. I'm trying to work it out.
Actually, I believe you entered. I remember the first time I heard or knew about you was when you got your promotion to SC.
Okay.
That was the first time I was like sort of made aware of your existence, to be honest. And that was through the Instagram page, and everyone was like, "Oh, this new guy Willie's killing it over there." But the
Uh,
first time we met, I don't actually know. I can't personally remember it.
yeah.
That's not
Just
saying that you're not very memorable, but I
it
think it's just that
varies
I
a
have a
little bit.
shocking memory.
To be fair, I
I could
can't
tell.
remember either, but sometime last year, sometime
Yeah,
last
yeah.
year.
Around then, you can just say you don't remember the first time that you remember meeting me, and then we'll
It's
balance each
okay.
other out.
I still love you. I still love you.
You too, man.
Um,
You too.
Firstly, big congrats. Obviously, we had a little bit of a dinner get together on Friday night, and
Mm,
you told me that it was the first time you ever had two sales leader promotions in the same
yeah,
day, which is big.
correct.
It's big. How'd that feel?
Very, 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 very big. Yeah, it was awesome. It was cool seeing those two get up on stage, Julian and Ryan, and accept the promotion. I think what's cool about those kind of promotions is it's not really it's all the work in the last couple of months leading up to that day that,
Mm, mm.
really goes into a promotion like that. So it's just a cool reminder of, I guess, how hard they've worked in particular. But it just shows that, I guess, even where I'm at, yeah, you're always chasing that next PB. You're always looking to get that 1% better.
Yeah.
Than I guess you were the last time you reviewed yourself. So yeah, it was really humbling, and I think they enjoyed the night too, which I think is the main thing.
Yeah, it was definitely a good night. Definitely a good night. Well, ask, where are you sitting at with your team at the moment? So how many guys do you have? What level are you at? So people know, because I obviously know, but a lot of people out there that are listening that probably won't.
Yeah, so running at a team manager level at the moment, based out of Melbourne, running a sort of events channel. We're currently representing Seeing Eye Dogs. And yeah, at the moment we have about a team of 7, including, I think at the moment that would be 4 sales leaders, including myself.
Sick, sick.
So yeah, it's a strong team at the moment.
That's sweet. So how long have you been in the industry then? So that's the base of where you are now. Where
Yeah,
did you start?
yeah. I actually started. It's interesting because the channel that I originally started on is not the one I'm the most proficient at. I've
Hmm.
actually cycled through a couple of different channels. Started on, I guess, on the phones. So doing, I guess, sort of telesales, and then that was the first channel that I guess, experienced. Then had a tiny bit of experience in the event space before moving to residential.
Hmm.
Uh, Apart from that, at that point, that was probably, I'd say, a year into the industry, and then since then, probably the next year and a half has been entirely dedicated to the event space.
Yeah. So
So
just to clarify,
yeah,
you're on the phones that was throughout the COVID period. That's why that happened.
correct. Yeah, that was
Hmm.
an interesting time. I actually got recruited as many others would through just your standard job application sort of site like a Seek or Indeed or whatever have
Hmm.
you, or
Hmm.
what have you. And yeah, no, just fell into sales. I think as most people do.
Yeah.
Applied to the old shotgun scatter shot approach where you apply to about 40, 50 different applications,
Yeah. Yeah.
or you apply to 40, 50 different places, and
How
then,
it should
yeah,
be. How
build
it
the
should
one.
be.
I agree. Not sure if you had the same experience, but
Yeah, I
um,
remember mine was between. It was basically the equivalent of like a little small burger store or
mm,
Bua, and I picked Bua because it said it paid a little bit more money. That was the only reason. Yeah,
yeah,
uh,
normally,
I
yeah.
feel like that's
I
most
to be
people that come
honest,
into it.
mine was more so the flexibility because at the time I was studying university.
Hmm.
And I just wanted something that I could do university and also do something side by side. It's funny to see how that the original reasoning behind wanting to start a role in that sense, where I was quite flexible, how that's developed over time too. Um, yeah, whereas now more of a full-time gig. So it's just sort of interesting to see how that sort of evolved over time.
Yeah, 100%. So that kind of leeways
Mm.
in. So what sort of
Mm.
work experience and obviously university experience do you have
That's a good
before?
question. Well, it's interesting because I think before finding Bua or finding sales, I guess in a more macro lens, I didn't have all that much sort of people skills. I mean, that have been contributed by a role that I'd had previously. So the jobs I had were, mainly fitness. So I worked in sort of a gym as a receptionist, and then
Hmm.
worked doing education for kids. So I'd write. We did sort of like birthday parties and stuff like that, which is quite cool. Yeah, where I'd write sort of fitness plans and do parties and all this kind of stuff for kids
Yeah.
aged between like 3 and 8. So that's the
Yep.
majority of my work experience. But all kinds of stuff. I worked there. I did sort of startup work. I did stuff for university. Yeah, it's
Okay.
crazy.
I did hear rumors that you did French martial art.
I
Heard rumors of it.
this always tends to come into a conversation like this at some point. Yes, I did do a bit of parkour when
Parkour,
I
is
was
that what it's more
yeah.
commonly known? The lingo.
It's normally referred to either that or free running. But yes,
Okay.
I did do a bit of that.
Okay.
I actually taught that for a bit, which was cool.
Oh,
That was actually what got me the role at a previous the fitness education place,
okay.
which was cool. So a lot of that was probably 2-3 times a week. I was sort of running classes and stuff for kids to teach
Yeah.
parkour. So I guess maybe that's where I developed some skills in explaining concepts and I guess helping people develop.
Hmm.
I guess
Hmm.
starting from scratch, maybe not knowing a skill and being able to get them to a point where they're proficient at a certain skill. Maybe that's
Yeah.
where I got a little bit of training in that. But beyond that, no real sales experience directly.
Okay. Cool. Cool. Well, what degree do you have? Because I know you were working on that. You started doing that part time through this,
Mm.
and ended up finishing that kind of recently, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was about 6 months ago that I finished, which is good. It only took me,
Cool.
7 years, but when you find your true passion, I think other things sort of lie on the wayside, if you will.
Yeah.
But yeah, studied a Bachelor of Business to begin with,
Hmm.
majoring in financial management and international business. So in my mind, I always wanted to, because I spent a little bit of time growing up overseas and in different places, which was I'm very fortunate, I'm very grateful for.
Hmm.
I always wanted to go, okay, cool. I wonder how business is done in different places around the world. So I think, stumbling upon sales, I thought that was quite a cool opportunity to learn about, I guess, business done in a different structure. I think the way the sales, this in particular, this industry works is there's a bit of a different structure to what you'd be used to. Whereas most other companies may
Bit
have some form
exaggerated.
of, yeah, we have a,
No, I'll keep that in.
uh, yeah, no, that's definitely not being edited out at all. Is he getting paid for that appearance, by the way, Will?
Yeah, it's working about $1,000 now, so that comes
Okay,
out to
yeah,
about
good.
$20
So
probably.
discount, yeah,
So
discounted. That's good. Um, yeah, that would be those are the two things that I sort of focused on, and I guess
yeah,
for me the financial side as well. I always thought running a business, it's important to have some kind of understanding of finances, the ins and outs of a business. So that was sort of the idea behind studying finance.
100%, 100%.
Mm,
Well, obviously, getting into this industry, it is sales. So that's
mm,
obviously the first thing you want to be trying to master and get good at. With
mm.
that in mind, what do you think is one lesson you kind of learnt in the first couple of weeks, months of yourself in this industry that's
Mm.
kind of been able to get you to where you are today, do you reckon?
Interesting. It's a really good question. I think it's a good question because it forces me to pick one. Um,
Mm.
yeah, I think I'd be lying if I said, look, there was just one particular thing that helped me progress to at least the stage where I'm at now. I think the biggest one was it was a quote um, that um, Daryl mentioned at the time. I had as the expression goes, your finger in a lot of different pies. whether that was,
Mm-hmm.
university or, different things on the weekend and recreational sports and all these other things that were sort of happening at the same time as with working in sales. And I got
Mm-hmm.
told, look, don't major in minor things.
Okay.
Not from the perspective of, hey, look, you shouldn't be majoring in things outside of sales, but it was more so, look, if you're going to do something, pick one thing and aim to do it as best you can, rather than, I guess, spreading, you know, your total capacity across 5 different areas and only doing 20% at each of those things. So that was probably one of the biggest lessons, was just picking one thing and sticking to it. I'd say that was probably the biggest one. If I could throw in
Okay.
the second one, um, I
Yeah,
just feel
I'll
like because
let you.
this
I'll let you.
one's. Thank you, mate. Thanks. I'll. Yeah, you can take it off my pay for this particular session.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, for viewers at home, is a grand total of $0. The
Yeah,
the
and
second
you pay
one.
for my lunch, so that's interesting.
Hey, fair. You did get me a nice bubble tea, which was delicious, by the way.
Mm.
Uh, there's a Japanese term called kaizen. If any of those that want to have a Google at home, it's KAIZEN, and it refers to or translates to continuous improvement. And that was a big one for me. As the quote goes, you want to aim to be not comparing yourself to others, but just trying to be 1% better every day. I thought that was such a cool way of thinking about it, because I had so many cool
Mm.
examples of people really getting their life in order and setting really clear goals, and yeah, I guess being quite good at their one particular role at the company. And I looked around as maybe about week 1, week 2, month 1, and I was like, man, how can I compete with these guys? But it's not really about that. And what I learned was, like, look, if I just focus on one thing, getting 1% better today, and asking myself the question at the end of the day, look, am I 1% better than I was yesterday in my skill set, in the way I think, in how hard I work, then that is the most efficient long-term strategy for getting better or
Mm-hmm.
getting and hitting and achieving the goals that you want. That was those two. Don't major in minor things, and I guess if you want to call it the 1%, um, strategy, if you will, I think those two things were probably the biggest ones. It's a bit of a long answer, probably a little bit more than you bargained
No,
for, but I
no,
just had to throw
it's
that one in there.
it's true. I love it. I definitely agree with getting the 1% better. Just focusing on that sort of process. Obviously, it can be hard at times when you are very competitive to start looking outside of yourself, but
Mm,
it's really good to make sure you are understanding that it isn't a sprint; it's a marathon. As long as you're consistently progressing and learning, then you can't really lose. That's what I'd say. Cool. Well, thanks for that. I'm really keen to ask about this, and it is a little personal, but what do you think has been the biggest challenge for yourself of your time in the industry?
yeah,
It
I
could
know
be
the answer.
within selling, it
Mm,
could be relationships, whatever. What is it?
yeah, good question. I know for me, and it's on the topic of competitiveness. Um, I I'm sure as most, I guess, kids who grew up in Australia around our age were sort of brought up with a lot of, whether it's competitive sport, competitive education,
Mm,
trying to be the best student, etc., etc. We kind of we grow up in an environment that's very competitive, which I think is a wonderful thing. I think it's important to always be a better version of yourself, right? I think in some parts my upbringing generated this idea that I needed to be almost perfect, though. Uh, and I think one mistake that I made coming into this was thinking that I needed to be, have 100% proficiency at every single skill. Um, and obviously, I think people listening at home it's easy to go, okay, you can see what the issue is there. Is, look, if you're trying to be the best at everything, you're probably not going to be paying the right attention to the right things. And mentally, it just makes you focus on things that you probably shouldn't. So just being okay with the fact that I'm still learning, and learning, I guess, over a long period of time is a journey. That was probably
mm,
the
mm.
biggest, yeah, I guess if you want to refer to it in a small phrase, just being okay with imperfection, I would say.
Okay. Well,
Mm.
if you could give an example, is there a specific example that might come to mind where it kind
Mm.
of threw you off the rails and you had to come back from it?
Yeah, well, I think to think of a particular example, um, well, I think less so about a particular day or an hour that stands out to me. It was more of a phase of time in my learning, which was more
Mm-hmm.
when you first arrive, I guess, doing or working in sales, you notice that there are a lot of different skills that you're introduced to that you think are quite, whether it's exciting or it's worthwhile chasing, whether it's managing your finances or being more organized, or even I guess outside of work things and habits like improving fitness or nutrition.
Mm.
Um, One of the big mistakes was I tried to apply everything at once, like trying to go, okay, cool, I'm going to go from 0 to 100 in a matter of hours, rather than, I guess, what worked for me personally was gradually introducing those different skills.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
remember one particular example, after listening to a very good audiobook, which is Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. If you haven't already read that, really good for, I guess, improving your mental fortitude. I see you're nodding because we both know that we
The
both listen
guru.
to it and love it. The man himself, David Goggins. He is very no nonsense. Listen to his audiobook. It's excellent, by the way. I would always recommend it. And then I was so animated, so motivated. I was waking up very early in the morning, waking up, going for runs. Some mornings I'd be waking up at 4:30 a.m., running to the gym, doing a gym routine, and then getting back all before starting breakfast in the normal routine, which is fantastic. But kind of went from about an 8:30, 9:30 a.m. no gym routine to going straight to that.
Mm.
And that's just a small example of things that I tried to do at the same time. And yeah, just ran into sort of health issues that would be attributed to that if you try and do it too quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
once again, just taking it one step at a time and understanding, look, if you do run into a roadblock, like that's not the end of the line. Just to continue at it, I'd say probably is a big one. So that was my biggest challenge, is accepting the fact that I'm imperfect. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, appreciate that. That's definitely a great answer. It's something that I feel like
Mm.
everyone works towards and is something that perfection, especially in the day and age where social media is such a big presence,
That's a big
it's
one, yeah.
massive. So cool to see how much you've worked on that and improved.
Yeah,
Now,
definitely.
to a bit more of a humorous side, I want to see what type of answer you can come up for this one.
Yeah.
If you can think of one, there's obviously going to be a lot, but one of the funniest moments or memories you can think of your time in the industry, something that you just can think back to and you're like, okay, that was a good laugh. That was a good time.
Um, I think one I always get a kick out of is um, it's me laughing at me, and it's uh, when I was in my first week in the industry, I recorded myself doing my sales script, my pitch, and
Mm.
I recorded myself saying it into a microphone and then sending it to Daryl, um, and I guess the director and indirect coach of mine at the time, and just I've showed it to a couple of people, and people that have worked with me, I guess, recently, and the difference between my pitching style, if you will, and my enthusiasm now versus when I started. Yeah, it's that for me is the funniest because of how rough and how much of how unpracticed it sounds. And to be honest, that's probably the funniest one, is recognizing like how different those two things are. I think for me personally, that's a funny one.
Yeah,
In terms of actual
I
things in the
definitely.
field, yeah,
I personally, anyone listening, I definitely recommend recording your pitch like day one, week one,
correct,
month one,
yeah,
quarter one, just to see the progress. Because when you're doing it day through day, you're not gonna notice it as much, and then you'll be in the
mm,
field just thinking, bro, even though you've done hundreds of sales before this, I'm shit. I can't sell. This doesn't work. And then you go back and see your pitch working in week one,
Yeah,
and you barely knew to even close someone, and you still were able to get sales.
yeah, it's a real
Oh,
change of perspective. I agree with
it,
you there. It's not only that. I've started getting into the habit of, with any new person on in the team, I I'm starting to get more and more into the habit of trying to collect a video of their own pitch,
yeah,
for the same purpose. One, it's a training mechanism as well. For those at home who maybe aren't coaching and training, it's beneficial because it's almost accountability. You set up the camera and it kind of forces you to know your pitch and to be able to deliver it to a certain quality before sending it. Like, I know if it were me, I wouldn't want to send a pitch that I wasn't really proud of. You
yeah,
might be different. That's one, but also from, like, if you are coaching and training, being able to receive that pitch from your guys and being able to watch it and take notes and give them constructive feedback and things of that nature is also, so it's almost like a two-pronged benefit from either side.
mm,
But I think
mm,
that a separate reason is just so later on it can give you that perspective of going, wow, okay, like, as enthusiastic I was, far out, there's a lot to work with, or yeah, it's definitely a gratitude thing as well.
yeah.
Listening to that and realizing the amount of coaching and training that I've been fortunate enough to receive from my coaches, it's also a nice reminder of that too.
Okay, cool. Yeah, yeah, I
Mm,
definitely agree. I definitely agree.
yeah.
Cool. Well, now I'd like you to put a bit of your imagination cap on for this one.
Okay.
This is where we're going to get juicy. This is the fun stuff.
I'm
So the
excited.
first one,
Hit me.
I don't know how much you would have thought about this stuff. I definitely know you're the type of guy to have a think, but I want you to tell me where you're going to be at in 1 year, in
Mm,
5 years, and then in
mm.
15 years. You're going to paint the picture for me.
Uh, I can do those in dot point form.
Sure.
So the
Whatever you want,
1 year
man.
from now goal is to incorporate my own company under the name Nautilus. That is the main goal within the next year. The 5 year goal, that is the aim is to have at least 5 marketing companies that I've either directly or indirectly helped set up. That's a very easy goal for me because not only do I want to be able to do it myself, but I want to be able to provide those same skills, pass it on to another person.
Yeah.
There's an expression there, which is you want to be able to send the elevator back down to the ground floor and to pick up other people, and then the cycle repeats.
Mm-hmm.
And then what was the other time frame? Sorry, was it 10 or
So
15 years?
15.
15.
15 years. How,
15
how,
years?
how old will you be in 15 years?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot with my math. I'd be 40 years of age. What would
The
I be
big
doing when I'm 40
4-0.
years of age? Well, there's a couple of minor goals there. I definitely want to have provided, I guess, a property for my mum,
Mm-hmm.
just as a very small, well, a token of, I guess, gratitude for her raising me in the circumstances that she did. Also, other minor goals for my dad. I want to be able to go traveling with my brother, and I want to be able to do things for my dad in particular. I've got like a list of goals there. I could go into those, but probably the main one is I think I want to be able to set up a venture overseas, in a completely different country that I've never been to.
Hmm.
I think that would be an awesome goal personally. One, it would mean that I need to have experience in opening businesses, but I think another thing too, it would just force me to start from scratch.
Yeah.
Culturally, from a language perspective, from a legals perspective, all the regulations and laws that essentially have to learn from, well, not scratch, but it would force me to be in a zone of discomfort learning something new. So 15-year goal I would say that would be in there. There are others, but those would be the main three ones I would say.
Mm. I like that. Again,
Mm.
juicy.
Would
Would
you
you?
come along with me, Will?
Certainly. If I'd like to go to Japan, I know you've been there, but
Hey,
Japan is on the list.
hey,
We,
I'd happily open a company in in Japan with you, mate.
I've heard the sashimi is not too bad over in Japan.
Yeah, I heard they almost like created it. I could be wrong on that last one.
Rumors, rumors.
Rumors, how they spread.
Fair enough. Well, that's a great answer. Well, going into that, what sort of travel opportunities have you gone on? What's been your favourite place that you've been?
My favorite, just so I think my internet cut out a second there, just so I understand the question, was it with Bua, is it my favorite places that I've been,
No,
or just in general, my favorite?
In general, where's the
In
favourite
general,
place you've been and why?
that's a good question. I think it's an interesting one, but probably Myanmar, Burma. I think the people over there are just,
Okay.
yeah, it really reminds you of what it's like to have gratitude and to have respect for the things that you own, however big or small. The people of Myanmar, I only spent 6 months there, which was an awesome experience. And I would happily go and live there. Right now, as the date of this recording, there's, I guess, some political stuff going on over there, and yeah, it's very refreshing to see, I guess, a culture of people who are still so giving and loving and respectful, regardless of what's happening, within their own borders. I just thought that was amazing, and you could sort of feel that energy when you move through different places. I stayed in Yangon in particular, which was stunning. Learning a lot about their culture, trying their food, all that kind of stuff. I'd go back there in a heartbeat.
100%. Sounds sick. I'm not gonna lie, I might be severely uncultured for this, but I don't even know where Burma is on the map. But based off what you said there, it sounds like a pretty cool place that I might have to chuck in on my little bucket list of places to go to.
Sure
I know I've got Japan there, Canada, Iceland.
Oh, Canada's good.
I guess Burma's on there as well.
Burma's now on there. I'd love to go to Canada. I don't know how my poor pale skin would go in Canada. I might turn white as a ghost out there, but it would be a beautiful experience. Plus, I could also fulfill a goal of mine, which is learning French. I would love to be able to do that too.
Guess we'll have to take Seamus. He'll like
that
as well.
Come along, Seamus, if you're listening and watching, mate. You can teach me.
Cool. Well, this one, I know you're a bit of a coffee connoisseur yourself, as we all are in this industry, mainly caffeine connoisseurs, you could say.
Correct. Yes.
Mate, put it out there for you. If you could have a coffee with any historical figure, who is it and why?
Oh, that's such a good question. Can they be, so it's alive or dead, like anyone in particular?
Yeah, anyone.
For me personally, I'm a big martial arts fan. I would probably pick Muhammad Ali. I think not only would it be like extremely entertaining because he is such a larger than life character.
Yeah.
But he's the type of man who has experienced, he's had 4 or 5 lives in one. His morals, how dedicated he is to his principles, standing up for what he believes in. Not only is he a very wise person, but I'm sure I could learn a lot from his character, his charisma, and I'm sure he would get even more entertaining after a very strong caffeinated beverage. That would be my answer, mate. It'd be Ali.
Yeah, I would be. Damn, I'm kind of jealous of that answer. My answer to that question is normally Elon Musk.
Elon Musk.
I don't think Elon Musk is teaching me how to box like Muhammad did. I definitely need to get into boxing.
Yeah, he might show you his flamethrower.
Maybe Elon secretly.
Come along for that.
True. Who needs to box when you got flamethrowers?
That's a good point.
It's a whole different ballgame.
Might change my answer.
Uh, well, I'm obviously here interviewing a lot of the management team of Bua Org. I'm obviously going to be catching up with Curtis sometimes in the future. That's the plan. I feel like I'll have to ask him because he is your roommate. But for yourself, if you can identify, it'll be funny to see if you guys match on this one. But for yourself, what is your biggest pet peeve? What do you think it is for you?
Ooh, it's a peculiar one. I'll warn you.
Here we go.
It's wet socks. Wet socks.
Okay.
I will go to Will extreme lengths to not get my socks wet. I think it is the most unbelievably vile feeling to have wet socks. And I can't pinpoint a time that must have been traumatic as a child that must have led to this. But it would definitely have to be that.
Okay. And what do you think is the pet peeve of people around you? Like, what do people not like about you? What is it?
Ooh,
Is it you leave your toenail
it's a
clippings
really
out?
good one.
What are you doing? What is it? What do people
It might
hate
be that one.
Fergus for?
What do they hate Fergus for? I hope it's not a lot.
Hate's a strong word.
It is a strong word, but I like it. It's getting it's giving this a little bit more. It's a bit more theatrical now. I love it. That's a really good question. I feel like I could be too orderly. You know those people that, I don't know, maybe you've lived with a person that needs the place too clean, and that like unnecessary things need to be put in order, like the shoes on the cabinet need to be in the right order, and it's all very unnecessary, but it makes sense to me. I'm sure that would grind up among my housemates for sure.
So you got a little hint of OCD in there, little hint, maybe.
Yeah, mate. Who knows? Who knows? I'm sure that there are probably little things in there that I don't need to be so orderly about. But yeah, who knows? Maybe I need some medication or something. If you know a guy, Will, I'd love to learn about them.
Not gonna lie, occasionally I reckon we should switch the setup, have Curtis and Seamus live together, and myself and you, because I feel like
house.
I feel like Seamus and Curtis, that would be great fun in the house. And I feel like we'd be neat freaks.
Yeah, nothing
funny.
out of line in that house.
Nothing at all.
No.
Well, cool. There's some pretty cool answers. A lot of questions I've gone through. To kind of finish, I'd like to get from you, I preempted you a bit on this before, mate, but talk me through it. What is one of your favourite books that you might be reading right now, have in the past, and why?
Favourite book?
Yes.
This feels like almost a rapid fire round. Favourite book?
It is. So we go on book, movie, podcast. They're the three.
Book, movie, podcast. Okay, those are the three. We've got Jordan Peterson, 12 Rules for Life, for sure. That book has impacted me in, more ways than one. Just phenomenal life advice from someone who has experienced a lot in their life. Very well read. Yeah, that's my answer for number one. Number two, I can't remember what order you put these in. I'm going to go, is it podcast next?
Chuck it. Podcast, go
Chuck
for it.
Podcast next. I would say the Tim Ferriss podcast on Spotify. For me personally, I'm very into business. I like always looking at ways that I could improve. I think that was one of my answers to a previous question of yours. Tim Ferriss's podcast is full of, I guess, excellent guests from different industries, and their approaches to habits, routines, and upskilling. I think it's phenomenal. Real bite-sized episodes that you can get a lot out of, that are very actionable. Not really a rapid-fire answer, but number three would be, I went two angles. I went a movie and a TV show. So I wanted to over-deliver here, but
you cheated, but I love it.
I was hoping that it would be accepted. I can give you one.
More than accepted.
Fantastic. It would be Tenet. Tenet, T-E-N-E-T. Tenet, if that's how you pronounce it. Great movie. You've seen it?
Yes, I love it.
Good. It's a very, very good movie. Anything to do with time travel, I'm all for it. Yeah, I'd say that movie. And then TV show, which I'm a massive nerd about, is Game of Thrones. Partially that's in my mind because House of the Dragons at the time of this recording has just been released, and I'm enjoying it a lot so far. So
Okay.
those are my 3 to 4 answers. Well,
Well, I like it. It certainly gives the viewers something to go look up. They can mixing in a bit of Jordan Peterson and Game of Thrones, just rotation on that. I think
yeah,
that
there's
seems.
a lot of enthusiasm about history and mythology. I can
I think
imagine.
it'll work. I think it'll work perfectly together. If I'm being honest,
Maybe they need a collab in the future.
one day in an alternate universe. But just to finish on, I'll ask you: is there any questions you wish I'd asked? Is there anything you want to finish on saying on this thing? What is the final message that you want to get out there to the viewers? Is there anything?
Anything at all?
Because I've asked a lot of questions. Is there something you'd like from me? Is there something you wish the viewers
Mate, I think
knew about you?
I feel like I've provided a fair chunk. I think adding to the questions you've given me today would be almost over providing here, mate. I think you've done a phenomenal job in these questions. They're spot on. So, mate, the last thing I want from you is to let me ask you a couple of questions next time round.
Oh, we might have to sort that out. We might
All
have
right,
to sort
we
it
can
out.
do it. Might be episode number 2. Who knows?
Ooh, we might do a wraparound. I'll go down to everyone. The final thing is Ferg's just chucking on the interview.
That'll be the special episode. Everyone, the viewers know nothing about Will until the season finale.
Sounds perfect. By then, hopefully, we have an intro, an outro, and a name for the podcast.
And a name for the podcast, yeah. Unless
we'll work it out.
And technical difficulties will be limited.
We'll work it out. But yeah, really appreciate you spending a bit of time on your Sunday afternoon,
mate. And to you, happy
to get
be
this
here.
sorted and make this happen. Because I think a lot of people coming through the industry will definitely be able to learn a lot from this. And on the final note, where can these guys talk to you? How can they find you? Is it Instagram? Is it Telegram? What do you reckon is the best bet?
Yeah, it would definitely be through Instagram. You guys can follow me. It's Ferguson JJ. So Fergus FERGUS SONJJ. You just hit me up on Instagram if you guys want to DM me. We can set up a one-on-one, maybe even a quick call. Anything you guys like.
Perfect. Well, I think we'll finish on that. Really appreciate your time, mate. And I'm sure we'll catch up again soon for another episode.
Thanks for your time, mate. Appreciate jumping on.
Catch ya.